Welcome back to the League of Legends European Championship. This is the Frosk Shotcast it is. That's Frosk, I'm Shot, and we're about to get into Rogue versus XL.
You had to be really careful how that came out of your mouth. Just one vowel difference, and it's completely different.
I didn't even realize that myself. Thank you for catching that one, Frosker.
Gotcha.
We're about to jump into Rogue versus XL. Both of these teams newcomers to the LEC. And XL, they definitely had a stronger start yesterday than Rogue. Rogue got steamrolled. So where are your eyes? Where are your eyes going to be for either of these squads in the matchup?
So for me, this is just kind of about fresh start. Throw it all out yesterday, kind of reset your mental state, and restart again. Now, Rogue, unfortunately, a level 1 win. Horrifically wrong. It wasn't necessarily a level 1, it was a very early game. Kikis didn't spot the ward, he got collapsed on max lore, and then it was basically just over from there as Misfits systematically ripped Rogue apart. On the other side though, Exile had a really strong early game alongside Caedrel for Excel, and they started to snowball, it started to look really good, and then it just kind of petered out in the mid-late game.
So for XL, they actually have to show us a little bit more than yesterday, and on the side of Rogue, we never really got to see them play because the early game issue was so costly. So for Rogue, this is about fixing that early mistake, I suppose, and then seeing what they can really do up against a slightly weaker opponent in XL.
I think it's an opportunity to finally get a real look at Rogue and what their potential is, because you still saw some flickers of bright light. You know, Syncux was under a ton of pressure in that mid lane. Maxlore attempted to gank him or exerted invisible pressure over him about 3 to 4 different times. Eventually he did fall down, but Syncux avoided a lot of those ganks to begin with. So it's just about reset it, reset the mentality, let's have another go at it. Kikis will spot the ward this time and we'll get off to the right start for Rogue.
Kikis will spot the ward, I quite like that.
It was just by like 2 pixels. He saw it, he's like, I'm out.
What I do like is that Syncux was willing to play the Akali. This is a guy who's had a interesting league, a turbulent league history, and especially in terms of his champion pool, traditionally been one of the more supportive players, but at the beginning of summer, under the Misfits banner, he was insane. He was carrying games, and I like that he's feeling confident enough to play that pick in his debut here.
I'm going to admit it, I'm biased towards Syncux. I used to coach him, big fan of him. I think he's a lovely guy, and I can see that potential, and unfortunately, he just hasn't lived up to it consistently. But for both these teams, it's about defining what consistency looks like, because all of these players, across all 10 of them, have had their career highs and their career lows. We're going to see what we get today.
I really like that, sort of redefining how we as viewers and shoutcasters look at names like Kasing, Expect, Exile, Syncux. It's rebranding themselves as the LEC is rebranded. Quick catch up on bans. Irelia, Rakan, Victor, Cassio, Aatrox, Urgot. No surprises, and yet another first pick, Lucian. I think that's the second or third time we've seen that here in Europe.
Yeah, priority pick Fnatic was the team that kicked it all off when they decided to give that Lucian in the hands of Reckless. This time around, it's in Jessica's hands. I'll work on that one. I don't know what came out of my mouth.
I think
it just
Jeskla?
It just fell out.
It'll get smoother as we say Jeskla a little bit. Go with Lucian. Lucian on XL.
I'm just used to like Xiaohu and CA and all those weird names.
Oh, trust me, I know. I've had many troubles in the past with those particular ones, Frost.
The point is you have a hyper-aggressive, very commanding Lucian now in that marksman position, so the immediate response for HeQ right now is to go to the Ezreal. Let's have some safety. Ezreal, again, very strong, 9.1. Said it before, I'll say it again. The W and the ult changes make him very good, and even though Upset didn't get going on him, maybe HeQ has a better time.
Yeah, Upset today, not as impressive as yesterday, right? So we can see the highs and the lows. Quick, pick ban phase here. Galio, Kha'Zix, Lucian. Over on the other side, Ezreal, Xin, and of course the hover for Aurelion Sol. This was a Syncux special. It has been a pick he's pulled out from time to time. He's going to go with the safe Lissandra. So we're seeing a slight difference in approach here, I think, but two very aggressive junglers as well.
I actually think it's kind of the same in terms of how they want to impact the map. So like you're saying, aggressive junglers, dual-oriented junglers with roaming mid laners that want to tag team with the jungler. And that's where a lot of this is going to start bleeding over the map. Who's going to get that initial rotation? Who's going to get that initial priority to start springboarding some of these carries ahead?
Now, when you say roaming mid laner, do you think either Lissandra or Galio has the ability to do that sort of earlier or first? Because I've always seen that be very impactful if you can get down and make the first play.
I mean, it just kind of goes on who's going to win the matchup or who's playing better at the time. Obviously, they get around very differently. The cannonball for Galio versus the glacial path or the slow walk from Lissandra.
the crawl, I think. I don't think she has feet, so
the float.
We can't see them underneath that icicle thing. I'll derail us no more as we jump into phase 2 bans. Support focus very heavy. Kasing losing access to Thresh and Janna, while we've got a Braum banned out as well. So the champion pool's being hit very heavily, but we have seen some fun ones. We've seen support Sejuani, we've seen support Vel'Koz, not in EU, but in many other regions. So I want to see what we're going to get today.
The big one that stands out with me, though, is still Tahm Kench, who actually fits really well with both these compositions, and especially for WD2. You have so much roam potential with Galio and Lissandra. You can play either side of the map, and Tahm Kench is so good as acting as a swing and then absorbing a lot of the pressure that someone like a Lucian can put down. So I'd love to see WD2 go towards the Tahm Kench, depending on how confident he and HeQ feel across from that 2v2.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and you can see it's locked in, especially when you think of WD2's Tahm Kench performances at Worlds. You know, really strong champion. It solves a lot of problems, and now we'll see what the top lane response for Profit will be once we finalize the picks and bans. Now, I don't know how much you've cast or watched Kasing, Frosk, but for the years and years and years that this young British lad has been playing on the stages, he hovers Zilean every single time. It is far and away his favorite champion. He has played it on the odd occasion, but never believe the hype, because it's more likely than not going to get changed.
Does he,
Oh! Thank you! I actually didn't think that was going to work. That was a gamble. I rolled the dice, but it worked out.
When it pays off. Now, we have seen Zilean globally, of course. He's starting to pop up a little bit more, but in the LPL, he was actually shown in the mid lane. So I think you're going to get your wish, Trev. I think this is actually going to be the support Kasing Zilean with Galio and Sion already locked in for Excel.
Well, I wouldn't think anyone else would play it just because I know how much he loves that champion. So let's talk how these two teams work now. We see in the additionals. You talked about aggressive junglers, you talked about roaming mids, and now we got a lot of scaling with the Vladimir on the side of Rogue.
For me, I feel like Excel is putting a lot of eggs into the bot lane basket, not just in tandem with the Galio who wants to get involved, but the fact that it is that Zilean and that Lucian. You have to think Zilean's ability to just make Lucian skate around and be that much more oppressive in that 2v2 is quite damning. So it's up to WD2 and HeQ to hold the fort. They must have red zone defense here to absorb a lot of that pressure and allow the likes of the Vladimir and the Ezreal to get their item breakpoints and start scaling up.
Very excited to see if Jeskla and Kasing can use the time warp movement speed, a double bomb stun, and then a full channel on culling. Now, the one thing that is going to be difficult, it's into Ezreal Tahm Kench, so there's tools for Rogue to mitigate, or I don't want to say handle, but at least like respond to some of that aggressive play.
There's also kind of different zones of power that these teams can play around. And what I mean is that Galio is going to walk bottom and he wants to use his ultimate on top of the Lucian and the Zilean. But the thing is that the Lissandra doesn't just have to come bottom for Rogue. It can actually be the Tahm Kench coming to the Lissandra in the mid lane. So the river control post Abyssal Voyage is actually much higher for Rogue on this style of composition. And maybe, yes, the Lucian and the Zilean are just commanding the 2v2. You don't have to fight them though. With the Abyssal Voyage, you have options. You can go into the jungle, you can fight elsewhere, you can get out of these bad matchups.
All right, let's see how these two teams play it out. Two slightly different approaches, but two very exciting team compositions. Both Rogue and Excel are looking to pick themselves up a win here in day 2 of LEC. And of course, this Zilean for Kasing, it is one of my favorite picks. It is the British organization of Excel. They picked him up maybe to be the front man, the face, the franchise player for Excel. And Kasing will be bringing the British bands along with Kadril. And the reason I'm going to segue to Kadril is, Frosk, you were talking a lot backstage with me around Kadril and sort of the expectations on his play style, maybe some of the more aggressive moves to try to enable Exile. And when you've got a Kha'Zix and then a Galio, that can then spill to everywhere else in the map. So what does Kadril have to do right to get Excel ahead?
He actually just needs to tone it in slightly. I actually really loved what I saw from Kadril yesterday. I think he's gotten a bad rep. You know, he never really got his real start playing in his starting position in the jungle. He gets that this time around, and it's in tandem with a guy like Exile. Exile is a high-impact player, which is a very nice way of saying he's going to win you a game or he's going to lose you a game. And what he needs is an aggressive jungler behind him. You know Exile is going to go for the play, especially on the Galio. Just team him up with the likes of the Kha'Zix.
Well, take a look at the stats there. 31% jungle proximity for Kadril means that in the early game, he spends at least just under a third of his time with his laners. And then 83% kill participation in the games yesterday when there were kills, Kadril was very, 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 very heavily involved in them.
I really loved Kadril's pathing yesterday. I think the one part that he could really tighten it up is he went for a very early dive where he was caught off, he walked directly into the jungler, and then it all just went sideways from there. Just tone it back a little bit. I like the fire, I like the bloodshed. It's very hard to teach players to be aggressive, so it's much easier to teach them to just chill out a bit.
Now there is, I'm trying to remember a terrible film, but it was like be aggressive, be aggressive.
Did you just say that was a terrible film?
I can't remember the name of it right now. Was it?
It's Bring It On, you
Bring It
animal.
On, that's right. They also had the, it's cold in here. There must be some toros in the atmosphere. I said, oh.
Ice, ice, ice.
Yeah, thank you. 90s kids will remember that one.
You're just displaying how old we are.
Thank you for not letting me down, Frost, because nobody else would have backed me up on that one.
Everyone under 30 is basically like, what are they doing?
Bring us back to the game, though, as Kickers is picking up the Scuttle Crab, and he's got himself the Hail of Blades, Xin Zhao. I want to see what impact he can have on the game, because we talked about it in the picks and bans for us. Kickers missed a sort of ghost pathing from Maxlaw yesterday and limited warding, which meant Kickers got killed by Hansam's Draven, and that's what allowed Rogue to get steamrolled.
I've never seen someone get so trolled by a single ward, and that's what happened to Kikis. Missed the ward, ran it to Maxlor, and then it was over from there. Now, Hail of Blade Zen, I actually think it was Kadril who played it yesterday. I'd have to double check, though. But how it works is it's going to make his knockup that much easier. His damage also increases. I expect this to kind of be the keystone that you're going to start noticing on the Xin Zhao, and what I really want to see is the Kindred Hail of Blades, because how that works is really exciting, but haven't gotten it yet. It's seen a couple of bans in the LCK. I want to see it spread over to the LEC.
I would love to see Kindred once again back on the stage and what impact it'll have, but for the time being, Kasing and Jeskla, they've got themselves level 2. We saw the double bomb stun there, just catching out Hiku's a little bit low on HP, got himself the Klepto, as well as one of those potions to work with. And the Doran Shield expecting to be poked and chunked out a fair amount in this Lucian Zillion lane.
I do want to focus us, though, on Kikis right now. I love what he's doing. He has the strong side of the map, which is top side. You can see Vladimir's pushed in, you can see Lissandra is pushed in, and he's just trying to make the most of that pressure, getting in Kadril's face and forcing his laners to respond. Now, while no kill goes down there, it does mean that Exile has to rotate over. Maybe he misses a minion, maybe he misses some experience, and so it is chipping away a little bit at these advantages that they could have had.
All right, so let's see if it actually hurts them, of course. For XL Esports, they've got themselves a lot of tools. What I really like about XL's comp is it's very clear initiation. You can hit that Scion, dive in, you've got the Galio for backup, Kha'Zix can come in any angle. So once they get to the ability that they are dictating the tempo, I like the tools in their arsenal.
What I really like is how it allows the Kha'Zix to be aggressive and to look for backline dives. You said that Kha'Zix can get in through any angle, and that's what I love watching with different Kha'Zix players. How they creatively use their ability to get into backline fights through either their stealth or their jump or, you know, the flash if they really want to get wild. And the Galio means that it's that much safer to do so because you get those added defensive stats.
Yeah, the hero's entrance just coming down. The disruption it causes plus the AoE taunt allows Kadril again just to reposition and use that Void Assault several times. Rogue are slightly out farming. We see the pushing lane up top, about 8 CS for now, just as Expector shoving backwards. Hiku, despite being down in CS, was pushing that mid lane, and Senkux will be the first to shove this wave in. You can see he's got some control and can back kick us up with this Hail of Blades Zen. Ooh, dash in, gets the knockup. Kadril forced to leap to safety, and Kikis doesn't overchase.
That bush is not Kadril's friends. That is twice now that he has walked into the enemy jungler, not necessarily in the same game, but keeps happening, and I feel like it's a bit of a deja vu for Exile. Excuse me, Excel. That's difficult. Exile, Excel.
Yeah, Exile, Excel, Expect. We're going to have some fun with this one throughout the course of the split. Haven't quite thought of any puns yet, but I'll release them when I do.
And we can focus a little bit on Expect up into this top lane. Unfortunately, I feel like he was kind of the big weakness for Excel yesterday. Almost at Exile again. Excel yesterday. His Rumble didn't really pay off a lot. He was caught overextended a bit, and that's what really opened the door for Splice to take that game, despite a really strong early start.
Yeah, I was really disappointed just in how many times Expect got caught out, you know, during the course of the mid-game. He was one of the more reliable top laners when playing for G2 Esports, when helping win back-to-back championships a couple of years ago. And I think it's just refinding that form. And again, it goes back to what we said in the draft. It's about redefining expectations for each individual player as well as setting expectations for Rogue and Exile as organization.
Now, it'll be a little bit easier on the Scion. Obviously, it's harder to kill than the other champion he was playing, but he is across from Prophet. Prophet playing probably one of his better champions, more so known for the mages, and one of the champions that he did shine on was the likes of the Vladimir, so very comfortable on this pick.
Yeah, working out so far, 58 CS to 50, constant control in the top lane. We haven't seen any big plays yet, so if you were to expect, I'm going to say, Kikis to be the one that'll start to play, he's going to dash in, uses that audacious charge, has already got the procs on the 3-talent strike. Cadril realizes there's support, there's backup, there's a roam from Prophet, but Senkux, he did not take the glacial path, and they just get the ultimate out of Expect, not a lot more.
But it is just a constant onslaught here from Rogue. They're consistently invading. You're starting to see that CS discrepancy between Kikis and Cadril can't get anything out of his jungle, forced off the Gromp.
Yeah, forced away and just starting to feel some of the pressure. The Xin Zhao, at least in the early stages, is just slightly pulling ahead. And Rogue, they farmed themselves 1,000 gold lead already, just through the laning phase. Look at the CS numbers on your screen, 14, 15 CS advantage for Prophet, about that for Senkux on the Lissandra. It is only Jeskler's Lucian that is marginally ahead of his opposing number.
But we thought that this lane would be a lot more devastating than it's been, and yes, we're only about 8 minutes into the game, but I feel like there hasn't been a ton of action coming out of Kasing and the Lucian down here. I want to see how aggressive they can be, and maybe Cadril looks at that as an answer to get into this game now that we have the ultimates in the mid lane available.
If you assume these two teams continue at about the same pace, just a marginal advantage for Rogue, whose mid game do you prefer?
I mean, personally, I think it's much easier with the Ezreal. Now, you can say that the Lucian's still incredibly powerful at that point in the game, but I think usually mid-game's playing around objectives, either monster or structural, and so it's easier to execute that with poke as long as you're hitting your skill shot. So if Hikyu's hitting the Q, just think it's safer.
Yeah, if he hits Q, then Rogue will be doing well. Hikyu was under a lot of pressure, though. We saw the double time bombs from Kasing and some poke from the piercing light. Jeskler and Kasing just making it difficult to farm under tower. Every time we look down here, I'm just waiting for Kasing again, trying to poke out and just making his life difficult, which is why you're seeing this deficit grow ever so slightly. Despite connecting with that Essence Flux, not going to follow it up.
Yeah, no battle stats on the Ezreal. He's got the tier in his back pocket as opposed to the Sheen that we saw previously as the initial itemization for Easy, so he can't look for those trade differences, which against Lucian, you were never going to get anyway. So again, hyper defensive bot lane start for Wadid and Hikyu.
I've got to show my age a little bit more. There's a power trough for Hikyu with this tier build into the Cutlass.
Are you telling me he doesn't do damage with tier and Sapphire Crystal?
No, he needs a lot of time to get many Mystic shots off, and unfortunately, when you're in that power trough, then you need to wait for it to upgrade. But this is why I think you're going to see Exile. They've got some control of the bottom lane. With Exile pushing through the mid, it's opened up Ocean Drake, and this is a completely uncontested objective.
I mean, the nice thing is for Rogue fans is that it's just the Ocean Drake. You know, it's not like an Infernal. In fact, I feel like we haven't seen an Infernal all day. Double Ocean.
Yeah, double Ocean. I think the third dragon was a Cloud of our previous game as well. So, yeah, there we go. Let's see who's going to contest this, who's going to fight it. But for the time being, I mean, Rogue are just setting themselves up very well to move into the mid-game. Jeskler gets a lot of damage.
I think you mean survive into the mid-game, but hold on. Kikis now looking for a dive. Still dangerous because it's Scion. He has flash available.
Okay, let's see what Kikis can do. Steps on top of the ward, Expect instantly backs away. There's a teleport available for Exile. Does he use it? Starts to get channeled down. Hemoplate comes in, a dash in. Audacious charge is already used. The pop, not going to be enough to take down Expect, but now Senkux, he fancies himself a shot. Doesn't decide to commit. They get the flash and the teleport out of Exile for just the flash for Kikis.
Turned around. I think if Exile overextends here, Senkux might look to come in from behind.
Round 2, fight! Glacial Tomb, Frozen Tomb rather, is thrown down. Justice Punch comes up. Prophet uses the Sanguine Pool to stay alive, and I thought that was close, but Rogue pulled it off.
Yeah, he juggles the tower aggro correctly. It was this time around Vladimir started with it. On the initial dive, Xin Zhao unfortunately got the tower aggro, which meant that it went completely sideways. If Vladimir gets it, resets it with the pool, and floats away.
Yeah, really nicely done, Rogue. They extend that gold lead even further. And you know, again, we talked about how yesterday they didn't really get to play against Misfits. The Draven just took over and the game was over. Now, with out-farming Exile, with a good roam from Senkux helping out Prophet, they've got a very sizable lead in the other two lanes. It's Jeskler and Kasing that are going to become problematic as we get closer to this Infernal Dragon.
I mean, it feels okay, but it's still, you know, the stacking I mean, he's got MR and armor right now from Expect, who's just going to kick this minion wave back and forth with Prophet. Maybe Syncux gets involved and they really try to double down on breaking this top side of the map, but I think you have to respond to the bottom side pressure that Excel are putting out.
If we take a look at this tower dive and then the responses, let's break down some of the decision making. I mean, Kikis as well as Prophet, they back away, I felt, at the right time, not getting taunted in a tower. And then pretty good play for Syncux to re-engage.
Reining in that aggression, we're going to say. But again, Xin Zhao, he got the tower aggro. It wasn't the perfect setup, but I do like the fact that they pull Syncux. He waits out of vision of the ward before turning around and punishing Exile for thinking that he was safe enough to farm there.
Yeah, really good play there from Prophet as well, just holding on to the cooldowns. He face-tanked the Justice Punch and manages to escape. So 12 minutes in, taking a look at items, first big spikes coming in. Jessica's got the Blade of the Ruined King. There's a Sheen for Hiku. He's got some damage to get him out of that trough, while Prophet is now going to be under pressure because Kasing and Jessica have already swapped. They're going to start putting pressure on this tower. They got 3 plates from the bottom lane, and they're going to look to take a few more from this top.
And I think they're exerting more so control, not over the top lane, but over the Rift Herald, as now every member is joining up here.
All right, so Kadril's going to get caught out here, but who is in trouble? Kikis, in fact, goes down. There is so much isolation damage from the Kha'Zix. Syncux buys enough time from his ultimate for the rest of Rogue to arrive. But look at Expect. He puts the hammer down, knocks Rogue up. The turnaround, the Vladimir damage cannot be ignored. Exile gets a 3-man stun. Jessica's trying to put the pain down with the Blade of the Ruined King. There's everybody low, but nobody's dead yet. Finally, EQ goes down. They're trading kills back and forth, but it's Exile that wins.
Disaster troll there. Stopwatch from Prophet. He hits the stopwatch, Scion flies through him and nails 2 of his teammates. Ah, feels bad, man.
Oh, Syncux now caught on the wrong side of the rift. He gets caught out by the missiles. Huge cheers here from Berlin as the Mad Lads from Britain, Excel, pick themselves up the gold lead.
Yeah, but just barely. That said, it's where the gold ended up into the pockets, and it's all into that Kha'Zix. So anywhere Kadril is, all of the pressure is going to follow, and that's what I want to see. Kadril being the star of this team. It starts with him. You talked about the isolation damage. You talked about the Galio on top of it, and they're able to delete Kikis before the match, or before the fight even begins. And then it's kind of a little bit backwards. Syncux is buying some time with the ultimate. He's then going to Proto Belt, and Wadid's going to reset him, but you're still competing with basically no battle stats on the Ezreal. They just don't have the damage outside of Vladimir, and Prophet's just waiting on repeated cooldowns. Well, it's too dangerous for Syncux to get involved in the fight.
It's a really long, drawn-out fight. I have to give some kudos here to Excel. You know, they've branded themselves as the plucky underdogs, and the guys, we just want to learn and see what we can do, but reading the situation and sort of understanding they can turn it back around when facing a Vladimir who's thrown down the ultimate, I think that's a good call, and they read the situation well. So good communication for Excel.
Yeah, and you can look across the board in their itemization. You can see why they were confident to take a fight like that. Ezreal still a bit slow to the uptake, whereas Lucian's ready to go right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a power trough. You know, it's a thing. There's a reason. It's a legacy piece of analysis.
Is that like your video card?
Has got himself a little bit of a hunt onto Prophet.
I mean, I knew you were old, Trevor, but it's not bingo time yet.
As I'm trying to do this age thing, you know, EDM grandpa over here in the corner. But you were talking about Rift Herald as well. Both teams are kind of positioning around it. Because of the fact that XL have prioritized the bottom lane, they got tower first bonus gold, but it's at the cost of Rift Herald and a lot of damage on this inner turret.
And it was actually just a smart macro play from Exile. God, Excel. It was a smart macro play from them. They were winning 2v2. They decided to go top lane because it wasn't about the dragon at the time. Now it's an Infernal that goes down that they put in the back pocket, but it was about the Rift Herald. So huge shift. Unfortunately, it's Rogue who ends up with it, and they are trying to trade 1-for-1 on the objectives.
They will do. I think this tower gold will get them within touching distance. 25,000 gold for Exile and as Excel. And as the tower goes down, 2,500 for Rogue. It's a 300 difference. 1-to-1 in towers. And of course, it's just the dragons that are really giving XL Esports the advantage. I like the itemization. Righteous Glory now picked up for Expect as well, so can just enable those initiations we talked about earlier. And XL are going comfortably into this mid game and also towards the late when you look at the fact that they've got a couple Drakes under their belt. So if it gets to a scaling battle, there's some tools for them to play with.
I also like the fact that they have a lot of hard engage when there's not a lot of options for Rogue to play into a side lane. You know, it's a Vladimir and a Lissandra as your side laners, so you can leave them out, and it's not like they're going to take towers as quickly as something like a Jax or a Fiora would, which means you have that much more time to use the Righteous Glory, to use the Scion ultimate, and to curate the perfect team fight that you want.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of having a simple or a direct form of engagement. It's really easy to align as a 5-man team when you just follow the Scion. When Expect goes in, the rest of the team follows. I'm just looking at the minimap. Pretty good vision here from XL. A number of wards in the bottom right-hand corner of the jungle. They're also starting to set up around the top half as well. So, you know, options available. And there's that the initiation we talked about. Curving around the corner, and Wadid gets blown up before he can even use the grey health, and now mid-tower's under threat.
Didn't expect the high burst damage to come out there, and now, like you said, it's 5-man pressing this tower, and Rogue, unfortunately, out of position to stop this. I think it's just free. Well,
very nicely done. XL force it, and they get the kill, they get the tower, and what else is available to them? Because this, also be honest, Lissandra and Vlad were pushing those side waves.
But again, this kind of goes back to what we're talking about. Because it's not the likes of a Fior or the Jax, if you have these two out into side lanes, they're just basically getting farm. It's going to take them very long to chip away to find any sort of tower pressure there, which means you have so much time to look for engages, to look for picks like that.
Well, let's take a look at the replay. I think the coolest thing is Expect curving around the wall. I just want to see the angle of approach from the Unstoppable Onslaught. That looks like he bumped it, but there has been a little bit of observer glitching today with some moonwalking and stuff.
The coolest thing for me is that ward, which now Wadid has found. He's like, how did they see me? He even set the control ward. He's like, they seem to know that I'm here. And it was that very forward, high traffic area ward. You place it there because everyone walks through it. Yeah. It's able to peek around those corners and set up plays like that.
Yeah, very nicely done indeed. XL 5 kills to 2. They are now taking control of this mid-game, and Hiku's got himself that Frozen Fist completed, got himself another TSO working his way up. One thing I want to point out, to maybe complement or try to shore up the slightly weaker engage, Spooky Ghosts, picked up by Prophet as one of the options. It's not exactly the hardest of engages, but it is an additional tool that will allow Kikis or Senkux to run somebody down.
I also really like Spooky Ghosts in a game right now that's taken a lot of power out of vision. Now that you can't have as many control wards sitting in your inventory, the vision gets a little bit more scarce, the vision ward gets a bit more important, and having access to Spooky Ghosts makes it that much more confident when you do walk into Fog of War.
Yeah, and of course I think I should clarify for anybody who doesn't know. Twin Shadows, of course, picked up by Prophet. And there's one other thing that I'm starting to toy with in my mind. When you look at the damage dealers in XL, it's Cadril and Jeskla. Predominantly physical damage now, right? So they need to be doing well for the Scion Galio to keep them backed up. Very nice interrupt from Expect. He catches out onto Senkux. Senkux forced to use the flash. He's already used the ultimate. Cadril gets summoned a heal. Senkux escapes. That was exceptionally well played.
He does manage to escape, but unfortunately the damage may have already been done. The minion wave is still marching up behind XL, and they will take the tower if they decide to stay.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, they want the back timers.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
I think it's because the Baron is spawning, and they actually just want to reset the map so there's no... I mean, it'd be crazy to look for a counterplay, but it's more about controlling the area. They know that they can get this tower later on.
Now, while I was saying damage dealers, I respectfully apologize, Exile. Proto Belt plus Fiendish Codex, the AP Galio has a whole lot of burst, and you've just seen it demonstrated.
I was just going to point out the adjustments to the runes really shored up Galio to start stacking more into the AP, because he doesn't lose out so much on some of these tanky stats, because he can just, you know, pick up things like the Resolve Tree and then spec into defensive stats in the rune triplets.
Yeah, exactly. Get those Adaptive Force. Actually, thank you, observers, for highlighting this. You can see just how much damage a very tanky, very mobile, very powerful mid laner has, and this is arguably why Galio is one of the top tier picks globally in the mid lane right now.
Also goes with the fact that he's just got great wave clear, can rotate after his junglers, he hits really hard, and suddenly you have a composition that's very well balanced in its AP and AD damage.
All right, well, let's see what XL want to do as they head towards this game, the later stages. Baron is up, the third dragon is now secured, 2 item power spikes are already being secured, and XL on the team with 1,500 gold lead. You can still see how much damage Hiku does. He's got that Mirror Mana completed, and he chunks pretty hard with Mystic Shots. But Jeskla, with the help of the Time Warp, is looking to chase down, and look, Expect's coming in from behind.
I do want to say, though, you can see how devastating this Lucian and Zillion combo can be, and now also Cadril. His ability to skate forward, it's kind of like the old-school Nami-Lucian combination, in that you put the E on them when you're playing Nami, and you allow him to double-tap the passive, get the burn, and kind of really move around and skate in the lane.
And the thing is, it works with both Kha'Zix as well as Lucian. All right, the taunt comes down to Prophet. He's forced to use the W just to stay alive. Exile dashes away with the use of the Justice Punch. And it is still 100% kill participation for Kadril. 3-0-2. He is leading XL Esports in this game. They are now up 3 towers to 1. And they are pressing their advantage as they're scaling into this late game.
And Rogue are just bleeding across the map, and unfortunately they can't find a good 1v1. I actually really like how Excel are attacking this right now, especially with Galio. With how much damage Exile is doing and the fact that he's constantly getting the better of Prophet in these 1v1s, anywhere this Vladimir goes, Galio is just going to follow. And then if the team fight does decide to break out, Galio is also going to be the first guy that can easily rotate and act as kind of a swing in these side lanes. So very cleverly played.
The scary thing is there's still so much that can happen in the team fights. Both teams are able, in theory, to deal with the other, depending on who finds the right initiation and the right, picks early on.
But divide and conquer if you're Exile. Yeah, they can play in the 5v5, but that's also where Rogue want to be. And if they can keep this Vladimir isolated out of the team fights, that's the big, trigger for them. They want Prophet to get that Vladimir Hemoplague across as many members as possible, and then just start layering up everything. But if he's over in a side lane getting blasted by Galio, that's never going to happen.
No, absolutely not the case. So, very nicely set up then. And I guess it's a difficult situation to play around. And for XL, they've played with vision very well. Almost every time I look at the inventory, you can see so many control wards on both sides, to be fair. But I think it's XL that have done a slightly better job of utilizing that vision when they set their sights on an objective to fight over. And take a look at Kadril. Because of the control ward in the blue buff by Rogue, he's going to find a flank here onto Kikis into Prophets.
And of course, it's very easy to follow up with the Galio.
All right, the Void Assault has already been used. Galio ultimate comes down, teleport already being channeled. Prophets running for his life. Exile starts to channel the Durand, will not find anyone to taunt. Tom Kent decides to jump in. Kadril flashes away for safety, and Exile's left for dead. The initiation backfires. Exile bit off more than they could chew.
Huge props to Wadid. If you didn't notice what he did, he actually stood still, moved into Fog of War, and then he just repositioned. So he was waiting for Excel to overcommit to that fight before ruining everyone's day with Abyssal Voyage.
Manages to pull it out, and that means Rogue, they're not out of this yet. They've still got something in the tank. And both of these teams new to the LEC stage, something to prove. Rogue had a good early game. I think XL, I can confidently say, won the mid game. And now as we're moving into the later stages, it's only 2,000 gold. It's not a huge amount, and plays like these mean it's going to be an exciting team fight, I think, towards Baron.
And again, keep your eyes on Wadid. As soon as the action breaks out, he walks into Fog of War, he patiently waits, and then he pulls the trigger on the Abyssal Voyage. Surprise, you got the pick. Unfortunately for Rogue, it doesn't translate into too much map control, so it's just kind of neutralizing or stopping some of the bleeding, but they've patched up some of the holes. It's not hemorrhaging as much, and they're trying to neutralize these fights.
One of the things I really like to say sort of this stage of the game, when a team only has one tower, and you have so much damage and so much ability to kill him quickly in Xin, Zhao, Ezreal, etc., it's just standing gold. So Rogue need to just find a way to get some control of their own jungle, push the ward line out, and then when they find that next pick, there will be 1 or 2 towers available to them very, very quickly, and that will help, again, just accelerate them to close the small gold gap.
What they need to do is defend the Baron. You can see that Excel are starting to get a bit antsy. They have great isolation and burn damage on the Baron since he's a Kha'Zix jungle, and I want to point out the 3... Hold on. I'm like really nervous that they're about to jump and start a fight.
Waiting for it. I think Baron's the objective. That's what the vision line is setting up. So where were we going? 3?
What I was wanting to point out is I wanted them to swap out some of their warding totems and start picking up more of these blue trinkets on the side of Rogue. Usually when you lose that much Baron control, you want to have as many blue trinkets as possible so you can just start stacking them into the Baron, since it's really hard and very dangerous to approach once you lose vision control. But if they do lose it, because they have Lissandra, they still have a great team fight around the Baron, because there's so many large walls for her to hide her glacial path through.
And again, it comes down to vision, though. You can't make those moves unless you've got some sort of control, which you can see Rogue on the mini-map. They're pushing in towards the Baron pit. They've got a couple of control wards placed fairly defensively, and Kikis thinks he's playing bait, but this is a psych! Double bait. Crescent God comes down to buy some time. Kadril gets yet himself another kill, 100% kill participation. Kikis is the target. He's put a lot of damage down, but he's not going to be able to kill Kadril because of the chrono shift. It was so close to working. And Kadril is brought back by Kasing.
And it was the fact that Kikis thought that he was setting the trap and he wasn't the mouse that actually got caught. So handed the cookie jar, it collapses. And unfortunately, because Lucian was also in position, you couldn't just turn and say, they've got 3 members on the bot side, try to burn the Baron. They were there to defend it. So great cross-map play from XL.
All right, Senkux, can you be the hero that Rogue needs right now? 9 seconds before Prophet comes back up. He's got a teleport available to him. Glacial Path and Frozen Tomb are available. W1D2 can try to disrupt in the pit. It's a 4,000 HP. Here comes Hiku. True Shot Barrage is not available. 2,000 HP for Baron. Is it going to be smited down? XL are staying in the pit. They secure it, but at what cost? Senkux forced to self-cast the ulti. Hiku fires across the True Shot Barrage, but it's too little. It's too late. An excellent Baron and an excellent team. So close. Excellent team fight. Wow, I couldn't have messed that up more.
Oh, it's okay, Trevor, it's fine. Marching down the mid lane, it's still excellent because it's not only about the mid lane, it's also about the fact that Expect has everything in the bot lane. So this is going to be a 1-2 huge Baron power play for XL, and they may even close the game here pending the death timer.
Oh, death timers are so high. 20 seconds for Senkux, 15 for Prophet. With all the damage that Cadril and Jeskla have available, they're going to just cut down Kickers where he stands. 12 kills to 3. The Nexus turret has fallen. The second follows thereafter. And as the Nexus is killed, it's an XL win over Rogue.
Much better performance this time around. Huge shout out to Exile and Cadril. I feel like Cadril's really going to be the guy to watch. They've managed to clean up their communication on the top side of the map. No more, random intentional feeding up on the top side in the mid game. Everything was much cleaner.
We realized what they were doing.
Exceptionally well played. Cadril leading the way up until that final fight. He had 100% kill participation. He was the man that made everything happen. And I do have a quick stat for you, compliments of our stats team, Frosco, and that is Cadril's 3rd ever win as a jungler on the LEC stage. But you know what it is? It's a 50% win ratio with XL Esports.
It's a fresh start is what it is, and that's all we wanted for these players. Cadril never really got his opportunity to shine. I think that there's so much potential here. He's exactly what you want in an aggressive player and an aggressive jungler. Just tone back that aggression, control it, make it more focused and pinpointed, and he can unleash Exile in that mid lane. They have the perfect ingredients for how to make this team work. They just need to now consistently do it.
And the same is true on the side of Rogue. The fresh start today, not absolutely losing the early game. They showed they can make plays. They showed they can get ahead. That tower dive top between Prophet, Kickers, and Senkux really stands out in my mind. And while Kickers has gone 0-2 with Rogue this weekend, I do like the fact that they bounced back from yesterday's defeat and showed they can go toe-to-toe. There's just some tweaking in that Vision game, maybe something that's coming to haunt them. Vision early yesterday, Vision late today. And it did cost them many kills and advantages.
I think there's some lessons to take away, maybe looking at the draft phase and changing up. I always like what did on the Tom Kench. He was making some great plays with the Abyssal Voyage, but unfortunately you can't just stack your bot lane that hard. And with the Ezreal and the Tom Kench, they were just getting repeatedly bullied down there against the Lucian the Zillion. They took a gamble, they left it open, they tried to trade it for power picks, and unfortunately it did burn them a bit, but I don't think they'll make that mistake twice.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think that's what's the whole idea of the spring split and the 9-week regular season. You can go 0-2, but you can still finish 16-2. You can still finish, 10-8. And last year in spring, the playoff teams were not yet decided until day 2 of week 9, right? So there's a long split, it's a long season. You have to learn from the mistakes that are made on the stage to bounce back. And I do have that final team fight. We're going to bring that up on screen in just a moment, and it is brought to you by Alienware. Frost, talk me through just this final Baron engage.
I mean, the decision-making is that without your jungler alive and available, you must go for the team fight. So Rogue, they knew what they had to do. They threw it all forward, and they just wanted to see how it would work out. Unfortunately for them, Excel secured the Baron, secured the team fight, and then secured the game. The gold lead really speaking for itself, as well as the numbers advantage.
Team fight so much better than my team fight call. So well played, XL. I mean, it's just a really good, impressive performance. 27 minutes in. Still one of the quicker games, despite it feeling a little slower.
We're the fastest major power region.
How does that work?
Well, it means that we're ending games faster than the LPL, which you don't get to say that often.
Tell me why. What's your instinct and what's your read?
I'm going to say that Europe is actually really good at kind of A-ramming a little bit. I don't know if it's just like the unicorns of love imprint or those fingerprints left there.
I'll level up the thought at finishing games, right? I'll take it that way. We used to be very famous for the Baron dance, but hold that thought for a moment because we have to talk about Kia player of the game. Jump onto Twitter at LOL Esports. Your 3 options are Kadril, Kasing, and Senkux. I'm going to ask you guys to vote. I was heard to vote last time. I'm not going to again. But yeah, I'm going to say like ending the game. When we've seen teams get an advantage, they secure Baron, and they just seem to knock the Nexus over instantly. But that's also the changes of 9.1 with the minions being stronger as the game scales.
Live fast, die young. I like the fact that no one in the LEC has decided to just really drag out a loss. They're like, no. We must turn it around. We must be proactive. So it feels like when teams are on deficits or are on the back foot, instead of just like, guys, we'll just try to wave clear this one out. We'll just bleed out slowly. They just run forward and they're like, nope, we got to make the game-changing play.
I would like to see some teams figure out a little bit more comeback mechanics, though. You know, we saw how Schalke just got crushed and obliterated earlier, but that comes with time, and it also comes with a meta stabilization. So we'll have to see how that works. For now, that's it from us here at the Frosk Shot casting desk. For more on XL's first win of the LEC, let's hear from Laura and their support.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. Indeed, I was done with Kasing. Congratulations on your first victory. I gotta say, yesterday was a bit harsh. I want to know, what did you guys talk about after the game to bounce back today and win this one?
Well, I think yesterday you can kind of see that our early game was really good. I think we had a very clear plan and ability to basically, follow a plan and execute it. But when it got to mid game, we kind of like, maybe it was the first stage cheers, right? First day, and everyone just wanted to be like a hero or whatever. So, shout out to Kadril. But I felt like this team definitely can, I think, have high potential. And of course, we've been ranked, 10th, 9th, 8th at best and stuff by everyone. But I think in the end, it's where you place in the end.
Exactly. And you made it better today, so this doesn't count. I want to know, how was it to play against your old team, Splice?
Actually, it was the typical Splice comp, right? Like, you just pick 5 champions that can go late game and just let Kobe carry. But, I think that game was more on us to throw the game and lose, and which is what we did. And eventually, I think Humanoid, he played pretty good that game. So
he did.
Shout out to him.
He did. How about Excel now? Because you're a new team, you have both experienced players and a new AD carry, a rookie one. How is it going with him?
Actually, with Excel, well, with Jesper especially, I say Jesper, but Jeskla, I think he definitely has immense potential. It's like quite incredible because he reminds me of like a young Reckless, right? He's some Swedish guy just coming into the scene that's like 18 years old, I think. So, he'll be pretty good in the future for sure.
Promising player indeed. Now you put out your signature pick, Zillion. Do you really think that this pick can fit any meta?
Maybe my Zillion, yes. I don't see anyone else's Zillion, no.
Good to know. Now, about the next game, Splice will be facing Vitality shortly. Who do you think will take it?
Actually, I know everyone voted for Vitality yesterday, but I don't know. I feel like Splice, if their support buys items level 1, then they can win. But otherwise, I think Vitality.
Well, we'll see about this soon. Thank you very much, Casting. And we're going to take a short break. I'm sorry. And when we come back, Splice will face Vitality. Don't go anywhere.